From ancient flood mist, fallout's irradiated wastelands, humanity has always dreamed of the end. But what if our obsession with the apocalypse isn't just storytelling? What if these visions, religious, psychological, even digital, are shaping the future itself? Join us as we unravel why we all secretly long for destruction and whether the end of the world is truly inevitable or a self-fulfilling prophecy. Welcome back to the Common Anomaly podcast. I'm your host, Stuart James. Joining me today, guest in the studio, Mike Aiello. How's it going, man?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
Good to see you. Feels like it's been forever.
It has been forever. It's it's not your imagination.
Yeah, and now you're just realizing when I say welcome to the studio, I in fact mean my living room.
Yeah, it's much more personal than a studio,
Yeah.
so I'm into it.
I say that for the audience's benefit. I feel like if I say studio, people will imagine a super professional looking studio and be impressed.
Oh, we wouldn't want that.
Yeah, no.
No. Can't imagine why.
So for the audience context, you and I are old buddies going back way back
Way back.
to just high school, right?
Yeah, we were 15, so
Yeah.
coming up on like 30 years almost. Jeez.
Yeah, jeez.
No, that's
Old.
not okay.
Couple of old guys here.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have you on the show. I feel like I've been trying to find the right opportunity to do it.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I had talked way back about doing a podcast way before this was even an idea in my brain. Because I think a couple old friends of ours had started a podcast. Was it Emro and Thibodeau?
It was Thibodeau and one of his friends, and I think Emro was a guest on it or something. Or, yeah, he was for sure.
Okay. Are they still going?
They were always very sporadic, so
okay.
they might still be, but it's like they'll go months between, I think. Or they did. It's been a while since I paid too much attention. To be honest.
Right, yeah. And I remember you pointing out and saying, oh, these buddies of ours, they got a podcast. If those idiots can do it, so can we. Right?
Well, I don't know if that's how I'd characterize how I phrased it, just in case anyone's listening, but that was kind of a wake-up call where it's like, oh, you can just do this.
Yeah. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder why we're listening to these people.
Totally,
It's
I
just
know.
some
Yeah.
rando.
Everyone thinks you're an expert.
Yeah.
It's just some guy in his living room. But no, so I'm glad we're finally doing this because I feel like this can be a little bit of an experiment, and to the podcast that could have been. Because, we talked about it for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, it
We
was
were like,
brief,
hey,
one of those.
yeah, like, let's do a podcast. So I was like, okay, maybe.
It was
And
a
then-
quarantine thing, I think. We were
Yeah,
just
yeah.
spinning out and trying to be like, what if we have to do anything else ever? That might be a good idea.
Yeah. But today, I'm really excited about this topic. I feel like it's dovetails really nicely with our last episode on cursed video games, where I've really wanted to, and you might have noticed on the show, we try and pull out pop culture references and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you and I actually end up doing a podcast at some point, it would probably be very much pop culture based.
That's certainly where the bulk of my references would come from.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would have to be, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have to.
And I feel like it's a
years.
nice bookend as well with my last guest, Mark Flegel, also a good friend. It seems like anytime I ask someone, hey, do you want to come on the show? What would you want to talk about? It's like how the world's going to shit.
Right.
That's what I'd like to talk about.
Well, it's
how
kind
the
of on
world
a lot
is
of our
ending.
minds, I think, right now.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Like,
So
you can't blame anybody for being a little bit focused on
it's
that, right?
going to be the go-to first idea for
Yeah.
most of us, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't mind as a topic at all. I think it is fascinating. And I do find our cultural fascination with the end of days or the end of the world really interesting. Like, why are we cognitively hyper-focused on that?
Yeah.
And you can point to recent events, but there's always recent events that you could say are a signal to the end of days.
Yeah, it's not a recent thing. Like, it's been part of pop culture for centuries, really. We're talking about things.
It's practically baked into our DNA.
Yeah.
Like, you can go back to Mesopotamia. Flood myths, Epic of Gilgamesh. In Hinduism, you've got the Kali Yuga, which points at cycles through time, cycling from a golden age to the Kali Yuga, which is an age of decay and destruction, where everything kind of resets.
Right.
And I think you'll find that as a common theme where it's more a definitive end, everything ends, but more of a cyclical thing.
Right.
Like, we cycle from good times to bad times. Judaism and Christianity, you've got the revelation of John, final battle of Armageddon, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. That's where we get the apocalypse. Even Norse mythology, you have Ragnarok. And in the Mesoamerican traditions, in the Aztec and Mayan, you actually had human sacrifices happening on a regular basis to stave off the apocalypse. So it's not new that we're culturally fixated on this. But in the modern world, it's taken the form of our arts. It's and not that it was always baked into the art forms of the day, but it's really fun to see it expressed in things like video games and movies and TV series. And that's where that's the stuff we love.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So what are some of your favorite examples?
It was always something I was kind of fascinated by, growing up and seeing, the Mad Max movies on TV and things like that. And just that thought of what would survive after everything else was gone.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think of, the like historical examples and religious examples and things. It's almost like as soon as humanity started to become aware of our own individual mortality, it wasn't long before we kind of expanded out, extrapolated that idea and looked at, well, what about the demise of all of this?
Yeah.
Because, it doesn't take long for you to realize that nothing's going to last forever. So that's going to be inherently interesting no matter what's going on. But it's when you start seeing precursors or, little signs throughout everyday modern life that kind of point to, oh, that could very easily, you could see it. We just went a little further down this road.
Yeah.
That's awful familiar to, some things that I've seen. So yeah, so Fallout would be probably the biggest, certainly the one I've spent the most time immersed in.
Yeah.
Between the games and the show. And like that is a world that it's tantalizing because it kind of gives you that vision of what a post-apocalyptic world would look like in a very specific version of it. But you also, I think it's a little bit easier it's more palatable for us because it has just that little bit of disconnect from our world,
Right.
Like that retrofuturistic.
Yeah. It's a little
technology
detached.
didn't go the same way. So you can look at it and rather than be totally consumed with that sense of dread, you're like, well, those aren't what our cars look like. So
Yeah.
that's what happened to us. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have flat screen TVs, so we'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's I think that's what the key to what made me so. It was always something I want to explore, and then at the same time, you have that piece of your brain that's like, don't think about this too hard because we don't like to think about, how possible this could very well be.
Well, and it lives very much in that world of dark humor, where there's a lot of absurdity and kind of these really odd things that go on. You've got, giant super mutants.
Yeah. Make it a little too cartoony. And you can be like, all right, this is just fun to think about rather than
exactly like giant crabs attacking you and stuff like it. You don't have to take it seriously.
Well, and honestly,
but you can have fun in that kind of sandbox.
And there's a part of my brain at least where it's like, if I was killed by a mirelurk in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, that's a pretty interesting death. I'll take that.
Totally.
It's a lot better than breaking my leg and there's no other humans around, so I just lay there and starve.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I'll take
a more realistic outcome.
Far more realistic. Like way less fun to think about. That's a short game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are games like that. Have you ever played any of the like hyper realistic survivalist games?
A little bit. I tend again, when it's hyper realistic, that's when I tend to be a little more apprehensive about it because just that disconnect is even when I got super into like The Last of Us is a great example. Something that's just real enough to be possible. When you play the game and you knowing about Cordyceps, watching that Planet Earth episode, you understand that this is possible, but it's not a human thing. But then when the show came out and they talked about all it would take is, increase in temperature of 2 degrees, and then these spores would be, have to adapt. That all of a sudden, I bristled at that because it's like, okay, well, you're taking away the disconnect I have. Like, this is all of a sudden this feels a lot more.
Yeah, well, and that's the difference in style of presentation of those two stories. Is one is trying to get you into that very visceral place.
Yeah, you're not allowed to pretend this isn't real.
And it maybe not meant to be as fun.
No, I'd say that's probably true.
It's meant to scare the crap out of you.
They're going for different emotions. Yeah.
No, for sure. Actually, I got some fun stuff later to bring up that just kind of makes Fallout feel more like the real world today.
I can't wait.
Yeah, why don't I just throw some of them out there?
Yeah,
I found it's actually an old article, but it actually just popped up for some reason in my news feed. But it's actually from 2018 about this 12-year-old kid in Memphis who built like a nuclear fusion generator in his living room or in his bedroom. 12-year-old kid.
Right.
And then the FBI had to get involved, and they're testing for radiation and stuff. And he had done it because he had just seen on YouTube an older kid, like who was maybe 15, build a little fusion generator in his bedroom, right? So we've got, And I mean, yeah, it just shows, if you ask me, the power of YouTube, where it's like you can just kind of clickety clack and look up whatever you want to do and a step-by-step guide on how to do it. It's one of the wonderful things about that platform. It's one of the scary things about that platform, because really scary stuff is getting super accessible.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about CRISPR and stuff in terms of, engineering diseases and stuff like that. It's a low barrier to entry now. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the duality, the inherent duality of having so much information at our fingertips at all times. Is you don't get to filter what's there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think we should, but it's these technologies, they don't just live in laboratories anymore, they're accessible to everyday people, right? And that just opens the door to all kinds of possibility, good and bad, right?
Absolutely.
And also just cryogenic freezing, I'm seeing, is back in the news. It's getting much cheaper. And I think it's because of this kind of cultural fear right now. People are scared of nuclear war. They see what's happening in the world. We've just been through a pandemic.
Yeah.
And there's, I guess, this massive flood of people now that's way more affordable doing cryogenic freezing. Where, at the point of death, instead of you going to the morgue,
right,
you'll have paid $200,000 or something to this company, and they'll pick you up, freeze your body. By the way, no one has ever been successfully revived.
I feel like that's an important step before I sign up.
It's all basically on the premise, the hope that in the future,
right,
the ability to revive you will be perfected, and it won't be an issue in the future.
Yeah, and I guess, if you're on the brink of death,
what difference does it make? Yeah, you're dead either way.
Exactly.
The worst things that could happen is what was already happening to you anyway.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. I guess there has been some progress. It's just because of the lack of, I guess, investment in this field that people are saying, no, it's totally possible. We just haven't worked it out yet because nobody's thrown money at revival. But I guess there has been some success with like rat brains and stuff where they've cryogenically frozen organs and stuff, revived the organ and then transplanted it into a new animal, and it's worked. Well, that's even just for organ transplants. That's exactly right. Development, yeah. And that's another reason why kind of money is starting to funnel into that, because right now it's like if someone dies and they're an organ donor, you got to move quick to get that to someone you need it. Yeah. But if you can stockpile effectively, that changes the game dramatically, right? Yeah. But so little kids are building nuclear reactors. People are cryogenically freezing themselves. Is this starting to sound like Fallout? It's, we're noticing some precursors for sure. Yeah. That's even in one of the vaults. I do want to talk about the vaults a little bit, because I feel like they're one of the most fascinating aspects of the Fallout universe. Absolutely. Is that, and you see that as well. People are spending boatloads of money on building bunkers, on building underground bunkers, right? Yeah. But it's like the vaults were supposed to be a safe haven from this impending doom. Even in the Fallout universe, they knew the end was coming, right? They knew war was looming. And so people hide in these vaults, and then they come out after the nuclear war, and they're stuck in this wasteland, which is kind of this, you're promised safety in this vault. Yeah. But every storyline of every vault in the Fallout universe, it's an experiment of some kind. It's some kind of sociological experiment, right? Where people are controlled by the character called the Overseer, who's like the authority figure, within the vault, who's secretly in charge of running an experiment on all the inhabitants of the vault. Right. And every vault has a different experiment going on. So even that promise of safety is betrayed. Absolutely, and in many cases that abused, right? That experiment is what leads to the downfall of that vault. Like it's undone by its own secret premise. That's something I meant to research, actually, that I didn't get back around to. I even made a note in my notes, go back and fill this out. I wanted to get like a list of all the different vault numbers and the different experiments that were going on. Yeah, I'm sure there's a Reddit post out there. I just failed to do it. Didn't get back around to it. But really interesting ones. One, I had a whole segment on New Vegas last week that I didn't get to do with Clayton. Bring it out, man. But we shouldn't go there right now. I got to flip to a whole different notebook. Well, you can touch on it. But I was bringing it up. I was bringing it up because of the vault. There's a particular. Have you played New Vegas? I have. It's so I've hundreds of hours into the Fallout games. So I've played a lot of New Vegas, and
I kind of view those games as finishing the main storyline isn't really the point for me. It's, you know, I spend 100 hours and explore all kinds of stuff, and that's the game for me. It's seeing what else is in there. I'll follow the storyline, but I don't always make it a point to make sure I follow that through to completion. But the side stuff, so yeah, vaults and, you know, stuff you encounter out in the world that tells its own story, those are the things that really keep me playing those games. Yes, so I played a lot of New Vegas. I have a couple of vaults that I can remembering from that one, but
I'm thinking of the one. There's one that always particularly sticks in my memory, and it's the one with all the plants.
Yes,
where the plants are going crazy.
That's exactly the one I was thinking
and
of.
Mutating and growing everywhere. That's always my favorite vault.
I remember leaving that vault and being like, if I just paid for that game, like if just that one vault was the whole game, I'd be satisfied that this was a complete game. Like that was so well told, and so I don't remember any of the details.
I just remember it's such kind of a rabbit hole. You go into that vault, and you're right. It's like there's this side quest, but it's almost like you step into a whole different world for a little while. And I always end up sort of getting lost in that one and be like, just getting to the point of how the hell did I get in here? How do I get out? And being so relieved when I find the exit again. Just right. You know, I finally can get out of here. Because there's a whole puzzle you have to solve, I think, where you got to go up different layers, and parts of it are flooded, and other parts are not.
Yes, something like that. The flooded parts. It's blurring. I mean, it's been.
Or it's got like spores. It's very Last of Us, where there's all these kind of hostile, predatory plants, and they emit spores, so that creates gas. You can't go into every single area unless you clear it out. I think that's what it is. You have to like reboot the ventilation system.
That's right. Yeah. Jeez. And it's a perfect example of just kind of the microcosms of Fallout games that they put inside Fallout games. Yeah. That's very cool.
I was trying to do like psychological research on the Fallout games and just kind of what people have said about it. And one of the kind of interesting points I found on the like Jungian breakdown of Fallout is that it kind of represents very much the point you made at the beginning. It's like it's taking the microcosm and going to the macrocosm. It's looking at individual mortality and expressing it on a collective scale.
Right.
And it's kind of transmuting that anxiety we have into something we can express in a collective way rather than an individualistic way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of key to just storytelling in general, is like make it relate to as many people as possible rather than you make it ultra personal and it's going to really work for a few people.
Exactly.
And,
But also, why is it fun? Like, why do we want to go there? Why do we want to go and spend hours playing in this virtual world where everything has been destroyed and it's desolate and very horrible? There's radiation and there's monsters everywhere. But it's because we feel so, and this is kind of speculation, but this is my point on why I like it. It's an escape from our hyper-regulated, super-controlled world that we live in now.
Yeah.
Right? There's a trade-off where it's like you can go back to straight survivalism, and it is a little Old West, because anybody can rock up and start a fight and kill you or whatever, or a monster can come around the corner and attack you.
Yeah.
But so can you. Right? So can you. And you can just play in this world where you don't have to pay taxes, you don't have bills, right? It's just base level survival. And there's a bit of kind of relief in that for our primal brains.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? To just have that bit of escapism from all those things, from paying taxes, from having to get up and go to work every morning.
Yeah.
You know, those can feel like shackles. Those things can feel like they're trapping you in your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they kind of even touch on some of that in some of the vaults where you see like, you know, where they kind of have, I think in more of the show, I think at this point, but where they just are too intent on maintaining the old life, the way of life used to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't translate to this new reality. But yeah, that's a very good point that I don't know if I've ever really thought about, the idea of, yeah, everything's completely collapsed, but I don't have to ever have a job interview again, or I don't ever have to. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it's the, so with kind of just juxtaposing Last of Us and Fallout for a sec again. Last of Us, you're into it for the storytelling. You're into it because those characters are so incredibly well realized, and you just want to see where that story goes. Fallout, I think it is a much more fun experience, like you said, and you also have that barrier of insulation between you and what you're exploring in the game. So yes, this you could pretend this is our real world, and but you have a buffer to be like, I don't have to get too heavy with this because it's just a little bit more absurd. It's a little bit more
it's a little wacky,
idiosyncratic. Yeah,
which is fun. I remember lots of times playing Fallout with you and just falling into crazy fits of laughter over something that happens in the game, because ridiculous stuff happens in the game.
It's the best.
And even like I've played other. I'm gonna screw up the pronunciation always. Bethesda.
Bethesda.
Thank you. Bethesda.
Yeah.
I love their games.
Yeah.
But Fallout games are always, it feels like almost intentionally a little clunky. Like the physics sometimes does funny things.
I don't know.
You'll punch someone and they'll fly into the atmosphere all of a sudden. And,
I encountered that in Sky. I don't know how it might be giving them a bit of a pass to call that intentional. I think they're just they make insanely complex games.
That's
right?
true.
So there's so much.
Yeah, and you're right. I can't say that hasn't ever happened to me in Skyrim.
It's kind of a known trait of Bethesda games to just have, especially at launch, just out of control physics at times and
but those create some of the most fun moments to me.
Well, they work a lot better in Fallout than they do in something like Skyrim, where everything's so dour and serious. And Fallout, at least you have a bit of a.
I remember a little while ago I was playing Skyrim, and just all of a sudden this horse just started levitating, and it just flew up into the sky. And I just watched it for like 5 minutes. It just kept going higher and higher. It was crazy.
For a brief second, you're like, is this a thing that's supposed to be? No, it's definitely not supposed to be. Oh, it's way up there. Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah. I was like, is this a side quest starting, or it's just a glitch? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But I mean, so I say that's something that struck a chord with me, whereas that's the appeal for me, is like, I'm going to escape the drudgery, my dreary real life, and go to this fun world where it is kind of the Wild West, and I can basically mentally remake myself. It's like a reset button.
And that's
right. But what's the appeal for you?
Well, yeah, the reset thing is a huge one. It's a start over, not only for the character that you're playing as, it's a restart for society.
Yeah.
And you're at the very nascent stages of it, and obviously you're never going to see too much progress, but they kind of like develop a little bit more of that when you get into Fallout 4 with the base building and stuff like that, where you're kind of reestablishing settlements, and then you get the factions that are trying to govern everything, and that's when usually where the conflict arises.
It's fun to build from scratch. Yeah, because a lot of the times in games like this, for some people, it's fun just to run around and like be a raider almost as a character in the game and just cause chaos. For some people, they're like, clean slate. I'm going to rebuild the world, how I want it.
Or I'm just going to go out there and like plant a bit of a farm and just hope no one ever comes and finds me.
Yeah.
And just live out the rest, which is another.
And some people play it that way, right?
Yeah.
And some people do pacifist runs, because definitely the game is structured in a way to encourage violent interactions. Most interactions, other characters, NPCs you'll encounter in the game, 90% of them will attack you completely unprovoked. So it encourages you to engage in violence. But there's like a little niche of people that play it for pacifist runs, where they put a whole lot of effort into avoiding violent encounters in the game to see if they can get through the game, get through the storyline without ever having to kill anyone.
With minimal...
Yeah. Which I find really fascinating, right?
Absolutely.
It's like in this very hostile atmosphere that's basically encouraging you to kill everything and everyone in sight.
Yeah.
Can you actually get through it with avoiding those interactions, right? And apparently it's possible.
That's interesting, because I think that's entirely by coincidence. I don't think that any of those developers are intending for that to be
a possibility.
Yeah, I think the language of those games is shooting. As complex as the dialogue can be, and as many different choices and stuff, the interaction you have with that game primarily is killing stuff and picking it apart for whatever you can get from it.
Yeah.
Which is that's games in general to a large degree, right? Yeah. So that's very impressive that it's even possible to.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. Have you ever tried to do
animals
that?
or like nothing?
What's that?
They're not killing any kind of like hostile creatures, or just like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
They're trying also. Yeah, not a rad roach, not a mirelurk, not a deathclaw. Nothing.
That's impressive. No, I couldn't. I don't think it sounds interesting. I don't know how fun
hard.
that sounds.
So basically, you'd have to do a lot of running at the beginning.
Yeah, big time.
For one. But I mean, one of my strategies with those games a lot, and I know we're geeking out on gaming lingo here a bit, which is the point of this episode, so get over it. Is I always boost when you're setting your character stats at the beginning, you know how you can choose to give yourself all your character points to strength at the beginning, or whatever.
The special thing, right?
I always do charisma.
It's interesting. That's always one where I'm like...
I always boost speech and charisma the most, right?
When I first started playing those games, that was one that it just seemed so ambiguous. So I'm like, what? Well, that doesn't seem like it's going to be useful in this.
But you can talk your way out of so much stuff.
Absolutely.
If you boost speech early on.
Yeah, I guess that would make that a lot...
Because it always gives you, dialogue options, right?
Well, I think even going back to the very first, like the original, which I should say, I've never played the original Interplay Fallout games 1 and 2. I've watched a lot of it. I kind of know about a lot of it, but I'm not so Fallout purists would decry us, I think, as phonies for only catching up from 3 on the Bethesda years.
Yeah.
But they can suck it. But, nerds. But even in those early games, I think even the final boss, you were able, if you kind of set your stats correctly, you were able to convince them to kill themselves, essentially. You don't even have to get into a fight with them. You can shut it down just by your sheer charm.
Yeah.
So, it makes a lot more sense.
Maybe not as much fun, depending on what you're going on, but it's a huge advantage.
Absolutely. And how unique that is as an experience. If I got to the very end, I think I may have done a run of Fallout 3 where I was able to do that. Because I think at the end of Fallout 3, you can talk that... Oh, why am I blanking on what the... Don't you encounter like the president... the former president, and he's been kind of basically entirely within a computer at the end of Fallout 3. Am I remembering that correctly? Those little iBots would be flying around, and you'd hear the message.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and then at the very end, you find the source, and it's the president. Am I misremembering? It's been a long time now.
No, that sounds familiar, but no, I don't remember who that character... But I remember, there's that kind of quasi-religious group.
Well, there's always... Yeah, that's actually something that I find very fascinating about post-apocalyptic stuff, and is the religious aspect. So
you always see new kind of belief systems starting to emerge. Or even, my favorite one is in New Vegas, and it's the Caesar's Legion. And but because it's like 200 years of the future and nobody can read it, they call it Caesar's Legion. And
if you're when you just are hearing, because I think. Well, I guess you'd see it written. For whatever reason, it took me a minute to realize that, that's Caesar's. Caesar's Palace. And that's what that's coming
Caesar.
from. Yeah, Caesar. It's interesting that they understand the phonetics of A-E. but not that C can sometimes be soft.
But great games. Yeah, great games. And I mean, obviously, zombie stuff it goes through cultural waves.
Yeah.
And I always looked at zombie movies and TV series and stuff is more... I mean, the original George Romero stuff was very much a social commentary, mankind eating itself.
Right.
Which is its own kind of apocalyptic view of things.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of society consuming itself rather than some external pressure destroying society.
Yeah.
And that's where we have the eating of human flesh. It's we consume ourselves.
And the symbolism of what,
and definitely, so that storyline initially resonated with people and seems to just go through regular waves of popularity.
Yeah.
Like it'll fade away for a while and then a resurgence.
You get like a solid decade of Walking Dead.
Yeah, totally. I just recently, because, I.M. had just decided, for whatever reason, she was off work to sign up for the AMC. Then we had the first free month. So I was like, I'm going to binge watch all the spin-offs of Walking Dead in a month because I wanted to see them.
Yeah.
Right? But I was waiting for something like that to happen where I had a month for free. I'll just binge through all of them.
Was it worth it?
It was worth it.
Yeah.
I only really liked the Daryl Dixon one.
I haven't seen... I've kind of fell off the original series after I think the beginning of season 4, it started to feel like I have to watch this show rather than get to it.
You're obligated to keep following along.
So I bowed out. It helped also that I think I inadvertently watched the final 2 episodes of the previous season in reverse order. So I understood what happened, but I was like, my head's all topsy-turvy with it now. I'll just bow out.
I mean, it was nice to see what happened to Rick after the end of The Walking Dead. But it did feel like, I've seen this before. It's a very typical Rick Grimes storyline where he's mentally cracked and what's her name, Michonne, has to bring him back to being his normal self.
Yeah.
And then they kick ass and take names.
Right.
It's all good.
Okay.
Right. But it's like, I feel like that's his storyline over and over again in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Where it gets too much for him, he loses it, and Carl's got to bring him back.
Right.
Or this other character's got to bring him back.
Yeah.
And he's just constantly losing his mind and coming back from it.
That's relatable, I think.
It is relatable.
Probably exactly how it would... I don't know about the coming back, honestly. The losing the mind thing in that world, yeah, I'd probably go there a lot faster than Rick did.
Yeah.
I feel would be like, it's not worth it. Let's just let him go.
Let's face it, Mike. You just would have tripped over something and been eaten by zombies.
Yeah, I'd probably fall into the first open zombie mouth on accident. And that's fair. Hurts a little to hear, but it's fair.
Yeah. For the audience context, Mike is just a little clumsy.
Yeah.
You have a reputation.
A few clumsy traits.
You would definitely trip and get eaten by zombies.
Yeah, that's a fun thing as you age, by the way. To be like, man, I've fallen a lot in my life. I'm starting to really notice that now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Some aches and pains.
Some random weird stuff. It's like, that's that parking lot in 1999.
No, I think that's just age. Because I didn't fall down nearly as much as you do, but in your 40s, just everything hurts all the time. Like your whole body. You wake up in the morning and you're like, oh.
Which is something that made considering a life after the end of the world a lot more tantalizing when we were still in our 20s, when it was like...
Yeah, when you could actually physically...
sleep on a rock and conceivably walk again.
Yeah.
Where, now that wouldn't be the case. It wouldn't last very long. Hopefully I'd be a decent meal for my family, and that'd be about it.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely the specter... I find Fallout really fascinating because of the specter of nuclear war.
Yeah.
Which definitely is born out of that Cold War era fear,
and I think that's dominated kind of most examples of a post-apocalyptic, or the post-apocalyptic, any kind of presentation. Most of it has kind of centered around that, or at least the biggest versions have centered around that since the 50s. Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that's a very present, looming threat in our world today. It feels like nobody talks about it, though. It feels like it's like we're probably closer to that being a reality than at any point ever in human history.
I think that
right now
that might be why we talk about it less, because we seem to talk about it more in periods where
it's in our popular culture everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, there's anxiety around, but it feels like socially, nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
I find that the creepiest thing about it.
It's
like,
this.
It feels like we're all got our heads in the sand a little bit, and like no one actually wants to look at this.
There's probably an element of us kind of a collective desensitization to it as well, because like I say, from 45 on, as soon as the world has become aware of these things, the idea that our imminent destruction is mere seconds away at any time has been, when that goes on for 60, 70 years, over time, you just kind of incorporate that nature to be like, well, it hasn't happened yet. So,
you incorporate that anxiety just into your daily existence on some respect.
And we intentionally distance ourselves from it through, I think that's part of what the charm of these things are. It's like if I'm exploring this fantasy idea, that prevents it from ever becoming a reality. Yeah. Right? Obviously it doesn't, but in our mind we can kind of trick ourselves, be like, well, that's not real. I read that, or I played that. And,
exactly. Yeah. I think pushing that idea into the realm of fiction, you can dissociate from it and say, well, that's not a real life thing that happens. That's something that only happens in the movies, right? Yeah. Which is very untrue.
100% untrue, but very much human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's how we cope.
Actually, one of my little pieces I had buried. Did you know there's one guy who's the only person officially to have survived both Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
He was at both?
He was at both. Because they didn't happen at the same time. Dude. Yeah, through the lens of history.
2 days apart, right? Or
it was like 3 days apart.
3 days.
It was like 3 days apart. His name is Tsusumu Yamaguchi, or Yamaguchi.
Just imagine what's going through that guy's head.
Totally, right?
The second, are you kidding?
So he was a marine engineer, and he worked for, who did he work for? For Mitsubishi Heavy Industries.
After or before?
Before.
Okay.
So he was on a work trip. He was a resident of Nagasaki, but he was on a work trip to Hiroshima, a business trip, and the city was bombed, and he was a survivor. He was wounded. He was heavily wounded, and he was transferred to Nagasaki. And like he was back at work on Monday or something. It's like The first bomb dropped on a Friday, right? And
so it's just Japan has always been Japan.
yeah, that's right. Well, and the story goes is like his supervisor was telling him how nuts he was, how he was just like, because he was telling his supervisor at work how, this incredible one bomb destroyed the entire city. And he was talking with his supervisor at work on Monday, and the second bomb goes off. And so this guy survived both blasts. Consecutively, and lived to the ripe old age of 93.
No way.
He only died in January of 2010.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'd never heard of this. That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? So, and I mean, I hold that up as an example of these events happen, and definitely seeing an entire city destroyed in front of you. Can you just imagine if you were out on a walk in Nose Hill or something, and you saw a nuke hit downtown Calgary, and the entire city obliterated? You would think that's the end of the world.
Yeah. I think, that's just what we've all been.
Mine and everyone else's lives are now over. Right. But it's survivable. A lot of people do survive. There is life after that.
I mean, we have to remember too that those versions of that bomb were very different from what we have today. So
definitely
it would be.
Well, and it would definitely depend on what kind of exchange happened.
Yeah.
But definitely these events that we imagine are apocalyptic aren't so. Even in the fiction we tell, it's always about the people after, right? Yeah. In the Fallout universe, the war was 2 hours. Lasted 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a global exchange of nuclear armaments, right? But the whole world is populated with people that are making do, having a life. And it's really, the story is more about what do people do to survive after? Who do we become in the face of those events, kind of thing, right? And how do you navigate your new world?
Yeah. And what do we keep from the old world and what?
Yeah, and what do you discard?
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's something I think I've mentioned on a previous episode. So my parents say, like, why would you bother trying to be prepared, trying to survive a situation like that? You just kind of want lights out, right? Because you don't want to live in that next world. Yeah. But I find it funny. There's an Instagram account I follow. I don't know how I got connected to this guy, but he's like a train operator, like a transit operator, but also an amateur photographer in Nagasaki. It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
Right? It's thriving today. Imagine taking someone who survived that event or was there for that event
and showing them,
and then saying, well, yeah, in 60 years, this city is going to be completely rebuilt and beautiful and fully populated. People live there. It's like, you don't imagine that in that moment. No. It seems inconceivable.
But in historical terms, like 60 years is really not all that long. Like the thought that, you can come back. I mean, so what Chernobyl would be about was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's still, I think, considered fairly uninhabitable, but it is, we're kind of seeing
but a meltdown is a lot different from, from a blast.
I guess I'm just viewing it as the same kind of radiation, but yeah, it's very true. But again, they're still able to kind of chart over that time changes in that environment and how kind of things progress. So yeah, I mean, 60 years is really, in historical context,
it's a blip,
right? It's nothing.
It's a blip.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do like the whole kind of Wild West.
Yeah.
There's no law, man. It's like you're going to figure out every interaction on your own. I just think that's a lot of fun. But I mean, one of the questions I was thinking about that was rolling around in my brain from more the aspect of this podcast and the perspective of Common Anomaly. We focus very much on the paranormal, the esoteric, and the mystical kind of aspects. Was like, are we self-generating this fate? It is by imagining and plugging these ideas into our popular culture. Are we in fact creating a self-fulfilling prophecy? Something Clayton and I have pointed out and explored a lot of times on the show in older episodes is how things pop up in literature or popular culture that then come true like a decade later.
Right.
So it's almost like, are we summoning these events into existence? Are we shooting ourselves in the foot, mystically speaking, by indulging in these entertainments?
I wonder if I don't know if I could speak to whether or not we're actually kind of creating the reality, but are we desensitizing ourselves to the threat of it, where the average person views it as unrealistic and thus we don't take it as seriously, and maybe that makes it more possible? That could be
like we don't consider it a real threat, so we don't pay enough attention to it.
Exactly, yeah.
thereby enabling it.
When the thought of a nuclear apocalypse becomes solely the providence of fiction, we're abandoning the thought that can happen in reality, whereas that's exactly where that's where everything's going to happen, but it's extraordinarily likely. It's no less likely now than it's ever been. In fact, like you're saying, it's probably more likely, but we've also spent the last 60 years telling ourselves, like, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? Wouldn't it be crazy? And then inherently, that's just the way our minds work. We've kind of built that wall that keeps it firmly on the other side of what's possible.
Yeah.
So in doing that, it's not something we talk about as a real threat to the same degree. Yeah, and then those threats kind of sneak in. I could see that maybe happening. In terms of kind of just bringing it about through exploration of the idea, certainly. Why not? It's absolutely something that.
What would you say your level of fear is?
So in terms of fear, it's hard to. I don't know if I'd call it more of an anxiety or a varying level of awareness to it, or at least what I would allow myself to be aware of. So I do kind of view it as, I've got my finger on the pulse a little bit. I'm trying to, I pay attention. So I think anyone that's paying attention to what's going on now is at least somewhat apprehensive about where this could lead, and the thought of it all kind of crumbling down. Honestly, like it's always been slightly in the back of my head. We've grown up with the, climate change being a very looming threat, and we're seeing that kind of being borne out now, and
that's an overdrive these days.
Absolutely,
it feels like we live in a totally different world than we did 10 years ago.
Big time, and then it's just kind of widely understood now that the moment to correct that has passed. So we need to just essentially now brace for what. So it's not so much fear as I understand that we are going to be living in. There's very much a pre and a post kind of demarcation point in our life.
Yeah.
And we're getting. I think we're in that transition period right now. So it is something I'm anxious about and concerned about. Fear, I think, is just there's going to be an inherent amount of. It's not going to be none of these are going to be good changes.
Yeah.
So, I would say I have a healthy amount of trepidation about it. But what's interesting with kind of the way I notice myself handling it is, you've talked about planting a garden and considering how you invest and stuff like that. And to me, it's like, as soon as I start really planning, that makes it a little too real.
Right.
So where it's like, we've got a couple of jugs of water stored and stuff. Basically, like we're in a position where if something really goes down, we can hopefully get to where more responsible people can take care of us.
Right. Well, that's not.
I think that's probably the most common.
Yeah. Maybe that's not a full spectrum plan, but that's an important piece of a plan.
But
where could you go? Where could you go if you had to leave here?
It still relies on some degree of infrastructure. So it's very much kind of a more gradual or incremental version of those things, right? Like a 2-hour war that just annihilates everything. I don't have any plan for that. Yeah.
So aside from some crazy bunker under your house,
there's only so much we can do.
Yeah. I imagine it's very few people that have the ability to have a plan in place for such an event. If it was I feel like the chances of it going to that place are probably more limited. It was right after my Japanese guy, because I wanted to look at, has anybody looked at what's our risk position right now? And there's the whole doomsday clock thing, which is completely arbitrary nonsense, right? I
hope so, because it seems to be
there's no real scientific basis to that. It's basically just some people, bigwigs, saying, "Well, we think it's here."
Right.
But the Atlantic Council experts anticipate we sit at roughly a 31% chance of nuclear war by 2033, most likely involving Russia and North Korea.
Right.
And you see those stats fluctuate wildly depending on the source.
Yeah. And they're always just, like, you notice the dates and things like that, they're always just far enough away. Like 2033
exactly.
Is in the next decade.
Just a little far enough out that it's out of your everyday cognition. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly right. I think you used the right word there. It's not fear, it's more anxiety. Because, definitely it feels like, well, there's very little I can do with that. Like, that's out of my control. You kind of have to you have to detach yourself from it a little bit. Otherwise, I think you do start entering into the world of psychosis where you're worrying about it too much because you really have no control over an event like that. there's things you can do to be prepared, as prepared as a person can be to handle an emergency, a localized emergency. But whether that does or doesn't happen, you really have no control whatsoever.
Yeah, and once you get to the point of, these doomsday preppers and stuff like that, where it's, complete, they're set up to be able to be underground for decades if they need to be, things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want that? Is it worth?
Yeah.
What is that survival? What am I benefiting from?
Well, and that's analogous to the vaults, right?
Yeah,
they very much live in this slightly delusional, albeit very physical aspect of that same world, where they've completely shut themselves in to the point where they live in a whole other universe than the rest of the human population on the surface. Right?
I think it's the genesis of that idea is a collective delusion. That you can preserve any facet of society. I suppose it's certainly possible, but the idea of just taking kind of a section of us and squirreling us away while the rest of everything all burns down, and we're just going to be perfectly preserved to come back, to reemerge one day and start over. It's like, no, fantasy. This is going to become completely different on its own.
Just start evolving on its own.
Yeah,
right?
And that new society is going to live in a very different. Every circumstance of that existence is different from what we have now. So that's not going to be what it was, and it's certainly not going to be, adaptable easily to what what the intention is to reemerge and kind of repopulate. It's not really like you say with the social experiments. We kind of understand that wasn't in the world of Fallout. That wasn't the intention really. That was how it was sold, but it was very different.
Yeah,
construct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is more likely that there would be limited exchanges. It wouldn't be out of the blue. It's a global nuclear war. I imagine it would start smaller, more locally. Yeah. Probably looking at Ukraine or something is the most likely flashpoint.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. Right now, that's probably where you'd see it start at least.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to think about.
So, and I mean, we all went through COVID. And I think you listened to the episode I did with Mark.
Yeah.
In which I won't rehash everything. But that was a trigger moment in my life where I was like, I think I better get into preparedness, and have some of those things in place. Do you do anything personally in your life?
Well, like I say, we're kind of set up, we've got like little hand crank radios and enough water kind of stockpiled, things like that for a short term emergency kind of situation, we're okay. Long term, no. So it's I think a multifaceted thing. My brain, I think it's interesting that your brain went during COVID, I better start planning for something.
Yeah.
And my brain went, oh, nothing matters anymore.
Right.
Like, it's all just gonna...
Complete opposite
it's all
reaction.
Just done. And then you kind of see how, especially as that progressed, people shirking any kind of personal agency in trying to mitigate things. And I'm like, oh yeah, humanity just doesn't... We're not even really interested in surviving. I think we're telling ourselves we are, but if you look at our actions and how the bulk of, certainly the way things kind of went, we won't get too far down that road. But anyway, it just, to me, it was like, I don't think self-preservation is really something we're going to pull off.
Right.
There's just too much individual, I think, essentially selfishness. Too few people are able to kind of view what they need to do to kind of ensure everyone's survival.
That reminds me, I had an interesting conversation just yesterday where I had someone came and rang the doorbell. And I went and looked, and it's like a family, a guy and his wife and their little daughter, and he's got like an iPad or something. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like TELUS or someone selling home security, which is what usually is. Usually, if I see those people, I see a little badge or something with a company.
Clipboard, you're gonna be...
I'm like, I just wave you away,
yeah.
Right? Or I don't answer the door at all.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I did answer the door, and kind of Bible thumpers.
Okay.
I don't know if they were Mormons or some other sect of Christianity.
Didn't let them get that far.
Yeah, but but I did have a bit of a conversation with the guy, and this is weird. I do find any door knocking so obtrusive and offensive. Like, I hate people coming to my door, and I think that's just our modern world. It's like, how dare you come up to my house?
And it was so different. It was like if someone rang the doorbell growing up, it was like, you go get the door. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
now
totally. The doorbell rang. Yeah. You have to answer it. Now I hide under the couch.
Yeah, now it's like mute the TV. Lay down
draw
on the
floor. The blinds. Yeah. But I went and talked to this guy. And actually now, like, my perspectives have changed so dramatically through my life. And now I feel like someone who wants to come to my door and have a conversation about their belief system and religion, I'm more willing to give that person my time at this point in my life than someone trying to sell me something, right?
Right.
Because I was like, this might actually be an interesting conversation. It was funny how he opened the conversation. He asked me, he was like, do you think one day we will put an end to war? And I had said, well, I'd like to think so, but I don't know that's really possible. And then he went into, I'm going to read you this Bible passage about how, God promises in the Bible to end all wars and all that. And he kind of continued on that path as like, do you think that's possible? Do you think we can? And I just kind of was stuck on, like, I like that ideal, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
And he wanted to come back and talk to me another time. I think he got like just enough engagement from me where he was like, I can work this guy down.
Yeah.
Right. And I politely said, I think I'm going to pass on that, but good luck to you. I think what you're doing is very positive and good luck.
It's a more palatable approach, I think, for sure, than the way I've seen other people kind of go after those things.
But it did actually, I spent quite a bit of the rest of my day yesterday actually thinking about that conversation and thinking about that idea of can humanity ever get its shit together and like stop killing each other? And I just don't know. I mean, that's basically our entire history. But where does that come from? It's very kind of counterintuitive. In one sense, human beings have so much compassion and empathy for one another and will do all kinds of things to support each other and help each other. And we're obviously prone to cooperate. Our success as a species is built upon our mutual cooperation.
Right.
But there's this huge dichotomy where we also are super tribalistic and can't seem to help ourselves from warring with each other and killing each other. And I really spent the rest of the day kind of pondering, what is that about? And I think it is just our nature. And I think the nature of all living things, we compete for resources.
Yes.
That's what we do. That's how you become a successful species. And that's how you perpetuate yourself. You have to be better at collecting resources and food for yourself than the other guy.
Right.
If someone comes and tries to take your resources, you need to be able to defend yourself and stop that guy from taking your resources. So I just think that conflict is a necessary part of our nature. But it's as we become more sophisticated in our tribalism and now takes on this whole other meaning. Like fishing itself is not an evil activity, right? You have to kill that fish to eat it and catch it.
Right.
But when you industrialize that on a massive scale where you're wiping oceans clean of all life, that it stops being fishing.
Yeah.
It's
I
don't exactly know where I'm going with that, but I'm just kind of recounting the mental road I went down after this conversation.
Yeah, I think it raises a good point. I think just the fact that the way the world is structured prevents war from ever being a thing of the past. We are tribalistic. We are, and like you say, prone to cooperation, but we're also very prone to finding whatever we can to divide ourselves and separate. Well, that's them. That's not us. And that I think is also a survival tactic to a degree, right? Like we there's only so much of whatever this is. We can only look out for a certain number of people. How do we determine who's us and who's them? And we've done that by carving up the world into, our own separate pieces, and we all get our own little chunk. But of course, that chunk only has these minerals and these resources, whatever. So we've established what's obviously completely in flux right now, but we've established to a certain degree, for the more privileged nations at least, a way of kind of distributing those things and preventing too much conflict. But we're seeing now that's it's far more tenuous than we ever really thought of it before. So the very idea of how just everything is built on these paper thin agreements that
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is these things you learned growing up, which feel very official, and you think they're rock solid, and for a long time it seemed like they were, and you don't question it because it was just a static way of the world in many respects.
Yeah.
But then you grow up and you realize, oh no, those are just pieces of paper.
Yeah, it's all built upon very unsettled foundation,
and all it takes is something to disrupt that dynamic. It's like, sure, when times are plentiful, it's easy to get along.
Yeah.
Right. But our nature changes. Well, like, I think that's we're very adaptable as a species. We're really good at adapting to changing circumstances. And so we're happy to cooperate when it makes sense to cooperate. But you throw a wrench in that and a different side of people comes out.
Yeah.
Priorities shift.
Yeah.
And behavior shifts with it. Right.
Yeah.
You'll get along with your neighbor your entire life, but the second they've missed a few meals and their child is starving, that relationship with your neighbor isn't as solid as it once was. Right?
Exactly, yeah. Desperation changes things drastically, and we're going to, again, this is the looming threat. So many precursors in our current life kind of make you think, well, these are inevitabilities that are a lot closer, I think, than we realize. We're going to see that idea of a desperate neighbor, pretty clearly soon. In many ways, we already are. What I kind of find, so back to the post-apocalyptic theme, those things still exist in those spaces as well, right? You have factions, you have settlements and things that are looking out for themselves and inherently in conflict with another one because you're all competing over the same stuff. Something that I always have found fascinating is, talking about religion or faiths or new religions or whatever, but things that come out, it's an odd thing of modern society to me to live on. Once you've seen everything completely collapse, I think to the average person, or at least to someone who's maybe not, I haven't grown up with, faith wasn't a huge part of my, I've been exposed to a lot of that stuff, but faith wasn't a part of my lifestyle. So the notion of it maybe is a little bit better understood by someone who's grown up that way. But it seems to me that, watching everything completely fall apart and the world be left in a irradiated wasteland, to me, that would be enough to be like, okay, that was all nonsense. I can abandon all that religious stuff and all that dogma and all those things I was told and move on. But you do see, it is something that people keep, folding back into those stories. So The Last of Us has had it, the children of the atom and fall and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a way of binding people together, right? You get everyone to kind of, it's, the aspect of a church, people kind of believing the same thing and having shared values and stuff. But you also have, and I think that's to quickly touch on kind of its relation to current politics, modern politics, real world politics, going after the religious vote. It always seemed to me as such a strange notion, where you'd have certain parties really, really want to pursue the religious communities as their base.
Right.
And why that would be. So again, you have a lot of people that are going to be kind of like-minded, but you also have people that have been, in many cases, indoctrinated to throughout their entire lives to believe what they're told, not question it, not resist, and just kind of follow along with what one leader explains to them, and then there's a comfort in not having to think about those things yourself and decide these things yourself. Leave it up to somebody else, and then from a leadership perspective, that's a very easy population to govern and keep under control, because individual thought is. Yeah. Individual self-interest and all those things are going to be. I see what
you're saying. On one level, I agree with you. On another level, I think we're not giving people of faith enough credit.
No, it's certainly not. I guess I'm taking the more really kind of.
I think there's an aspect of that. I think actually the why a politician might try to appeal to a certain group is probably just more numbers than anything else, than anything to actually do with those ideals or that belief system itself. Just saying, hey, here's a big group of people that are all together, that are likely to vote together. I'm going to pander to them, right? Whether that aligns with their own belief system or not. I think you probably do have a point of it's easier to manipulate a mass of people than an individual person.
Yes.
Right? But I don't think that's at all limited to religion.
No,
I think you see that in all kinds of facets of our life.
Absolutely. It's just a structure that's already there, I guess is what, so you can kind of take that model and apply it as you need to. Yeah. So in many of those cases, the people at the heads of those things like in Fallout, the leaders of those groups, they're not part of that faith. They understand they can use it to, keep these people in line. So
and I mean, that's always been my aspect of, like, I'm not a religious person. I've never belonged to any kind of religious organization, but I would say I'm not atheistic as well. I find that an atheistic belief system. If believing in a God is foolish, then I think pure atheism is probably just as foolish in the same respects. I'm more agnostic in a spiritual sense, but I'm just adverse to joining institutions.
That's my feeling on it as well, yeah.
And when I see a church or religion, I see first and foremost an institution than I do a spiritual belief system.
Yeah.
That's just my personal perspective, nothing against anyone who...
No, certainly not.
And enjoys the community, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for the positive attributes of that as well. I think possibly like a religious person would believe in the power of prayer. And I think there's absolutely something to that. A bunch of people all focusing their intention on one thing, seeking one outcome, collectively can generate real world results.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could say that about anything. Any group of people that is collectively putting their energy in one direction is going to yield results.
Yeah, that's very true. And however that's manifested, or whatever kind of...
Yeah, whether that's faith healing or building a rocket to Mars, you can do those things, right. I think, with collective input, right?
And I guess that's the very concept of faith versus hope. When hope is hard to fathom situations, that's when faith kind of fills that void.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's in that regard, it's also easy to understand that, maybe that would live on, because what else do you have? We need to be able to look at something for a possible something to save us, or something to a light at the end of the tunnel, essentially, and whatever form that takes, however you can kind of steer your mind to that, and especially if it's shared by a community, that makes a lot of sense.
Great. Well, we're actually getting quite long on time.
Oh, there we go.
So I think we should probably wrap it up. That feels like a nice little, slightly hopeful note to land on. This conversation was far more philosophical than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to tell more fun stories about rad roaches and things like that.
We could do a part 2.
And there's much more. Like I got a whole other couple pages of notes on, like, I want to talk about Joker. I know you're a huge Batman fan, and I was a big fan of that Joker movie. Maybe we can do a part 2.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that you considered that a post-apocalyptic story, and I had not thought of it that way.
Not post-apocalyptic. It seems like a trigger. It's more a trigger moment. And I liked the idea of looking at one character's journey and how it impacts the broader world around them, and how
the broader world around them shapes that person to become something completely different.
That's right. And there's a really fascinating interplay there. But anyway, maybe that's a whole other episode.
I'm in.
That we need to do at some point in the future.
If you just want to talk about Batman for an hour, I don't know how it'll fit.
Yeah, that might have been a better choice for us to go. Could just let you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Wind him up and let him go. Batman. Okay, so let's wrap it up. But just before we go, do you have any shout-outs? We normally do it at the beginning. I totally dropped the ball and missed it at the beginning of the show. But do you want to just say hi to anyone? Or
also, my daughter asked me to mention her at some point. So I have a daughter. So hi, Amber.
Hi, Amber.
Hi, Graham. I have a son as well.
Is Graham still making his movies?
Yeah, he's done. His YouTube channel is. He still puts a lot of time and effort into that. He's really into painting little mini model, like D&D models and things like that too.
Sweet.
He's very creative, very really into that stuff. And then, like I was saying, Amber's getting into music, but also drama is the big big push for her now. So they're at that cusp, man, heading into adolescence where start to become people.
Yeah,
see what they're going to be.
Yeah, now they become interesting.
Yeah, exactly. More interesting. They were always kind of interesting.
Well, that's great. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks for being here today and helping me fill the gap.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Clayton's away on vacation. The next 2 episodes, I'm taking a bit of a break as well. My life's going to be topsy-turvy. We got new windows going in. The house is going to be totally torn down and rebuilt from scratch.
What? Not just Windows?
No, it's just the Windows.
Oh,
it's
okay.
just that's going to be so
Very
disruptive to our life.
Yeah, no.
For a little while. So yeah, actually, but we do have content. The next 2 episodes you'll hear after this one are pre-recorded. Clayton and I recorded a follow-up to our Freemasons episode.
Oh, nice.
And next week, I've got a solo episode for you, which I'm really proud of. It's all ready to go. I hope you like it. It's on psychedelics.
Oh, nice.
It's a really fun episode. I'm really happy with how it turned out. But I just did want to make a note for the audience that I recorded it in chunks and then, spliced it all together. And as a result, I did end up with a couple little audio artifacts. I think there's only 2 spots in the recording where you'll hear a little disruptive bump.
For those
it's not too bad.
While on psychedelics,
but
that'll give them something to really spin out on.
It might be crazy.
Yeah.
Might be crazy.
Look forward to that.
Get wild. But it's a fun episode. So I do apologize for the creaking chair, for one, and those little audio artifacts. But other than that, I'm super happy with how it turned out. And yeah, anyway, look forward to that. And then Clayton and I will be back at the end of the month and pick up where we left off. So yeah, but thanks for being here today. And we'll just say to the audience, thanks for listening. If you've stuck with us this long, then please like, subscribe, do all those things. It really helps out the show. And with that, we'll say have a good weekend and good night.
Have a good weekend. Good night.